It's important to recognize that our body is really the product of our thoughts. We're beginning to understand in medical science the degree to which the nature of thoughts and emotions actually determines the physical substance and structure and function of our bodies.
You know people who have had terminal disease. Stop and think of the word dis-ease. Hyphenate the word. That's a body that's not at ease.
We've got 1,000 different diagnoses and disease out there. They're just the weak link. They're all the result of one thing: stress. And you put enough stress on the chain, you put enough stress on the system, and one of the links breaks.
If you have a disease and you're focusing on it and you're talking to people about it, you're going to create more disease cells.
Negative thoughts, stress, have been shown to seriously degrade the body and the functioning of the brain, because it's our thoughts and emotions that are continuously reassembling, reorganizing, recreating our body.
Did you know that 90% of all illnesses are caused by the mind?
Smarts, is there really such a thing as a broken heart? Every day, 2,600 Americans die of cardiovascular disease. One person every 33 seconds. And despite big medical advances, more than 650,000 new heart attacks take place every year. That's why many believe that emotions may have a physiological effect on the heart. Cardiologist Mimi Garneri.
The heart is something that is affected by emotions, affected by grief, affected by love.
Physiologically, how does sadness or unhappiness physiologically impact the heart?
Well, let's talk for a second about stress. People can relate to that. When you're emotionally upset, you produce stress hormones. So things like cortisol, which raise blood sugar, adrenaline, which raise blood pressure, increase the heart rate, make the heart skip beats, and constrict coronaries. So we see many people having a cardiovascular event after having a stressful situation.
Now, what is the stress response? Let's think about the stress response in a human being, for example. Let's say I'm a person, I'm walking down the street, and all of a sudden a tiger starts running at me. There is an automatic, genetically programmed response that occurs in the human body. And in the body and the organism as a whole, there's a particular, there's a response that's going to happen. Whether I want it to happen or not, it's going to happen. And it's often increased heart rate, increased cortisol levels in the blood, increased adrenaline levels, increased blood pressure, body maintenance and repair activities shut down, reproductive activities shut down, immune processes shut down.
Our thoughts create our body moment by moment. When we think positive thoughts, we release certain chemicals into our body. When we think negative thoughts, we release negative chemicals into our body. And those have a profound effect on how the cells are behaving and how the nutrition is being used.
Scientific discoveries in the field and in the lab prove that stress is not a state of mind, but something measurable and dangerous.
This is not an abstract concept. It's not something that maybe someday you should do something about. You need to attend to it today.
In some of the most unexpected places, scientists are revealing just how lethal stress can be.
Chronic stress could do something as unsubtle and grotesque as kill some of your brain cells.
The impact of stress can be found deep within us, shrinking our brains, adding fat to our bellies, even unraveling our chromosomes.
This is real. This is not just somebody whining.
But stress can come in many forms. Stress can come in the form of a tiger chasing you, or it could be just the day-to-day things, traffic. It could be financial concerns. It can be concerns about work and your job and unemployment, the economy. It can be social and relationship issues. It can be subtle nutritional deficiencies day in and day out. It can be subtle toxicities day in and day out, things that go into your body that shouldn't be there. But if we look at the body at a cell level and we say, okay, there's a cell, that cell needs a particular environment. If there is something in that environment of that cell that shouldn't be there, the cell can actually detect that, and it detects the foreign substance, the foreign energy, the foreign chemical, and it can detect that, and it tends to go on guard a little bit. And again, this is mainstream physiology. I'm not making any of this stuff up. It's basic stuff, okay? So the human body has an automatic response to stress, and the response is to kind of hunker down. So if it hunkers down for a long time, what happens is repair and maintenance gets downplayed. It gets, pushed into the back seat, And what happens is the cell starts to fall apart. The cell starts to degrade. It starts to oxidize. You can have damage to the cell. You can also have damage to the DNA that doesn't get repaired. Oh, that's big. Because you know what? That can cause cancer.
In the presence of anger, rage, hate, jealousy, DNA was tightened like a little knot, and it actually shut down in some instances. Those little switches depleted the immune response. Intuitively, we know this. We know that when people live in a state of jealousy or anger or rage, that it depresses those portions of our bodies.
First of all, to understand how the emotion code works, you have to understand that the human body is really nothing but energy. If you look at your hand, for example, that hand looks pretty solid. But if you were to magnify that hand 1,000,000 times, you'd be looking face to face with a single individual atom. And if you could look into that atom, you'd see there's really nothing in there but empty space and infinitesimally tiny energies zipping around at the speed of light. And that's really what we are. We're beings of pure energy. We are composed of all these countless energies, tiny energies, that are all flying in this close formation, giving us this experience that we're having in this world. Well, when we feel an emotion strongly enough, what we're really feeling is a vibrational energy. Every emotion has its own specific vibrational frequency. Anger is a different emotional energy, a different frequency, a different vibration than frustration, and that's different than sadness, and they're all different. But when you're feeling an intense emotion, your whole being can take on this vibration, and it's during those times that sometimes the energy of that emotion that you're feeling is too powerful, and that energy can become trapped and stuck in the body. And a trapped emotion, we have found, is literally a ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a cantaloupe. And these will lodge anywhere in the body and disrupt the normal energy field of the body. And because that's all the body really is an energy field, when you distort that energy field, you eventually start to have problems, because what you're really doing is you're distorting the tissues of the body themselves. And if you distort tissue and you irritate tissue long enough, that tissue starts to have problems, and it can go through those changes that we call cancer.
Well, I always like to use the metaphor of an orange. I love the orange. Perhaps living in Florida is why, but an orange is a simple metaphor. You take this orange and you squeeze it as hard as you can squeeze it, and you ask yourself, what will come out? And what comes out when you squeeze an orange? Orange juice. Never, no matter how many times you squeeze it, will apple juice come out. There's no mistakes. You'll never get grapefruit juice out of this thing, ever. The only thing you'll ever get out of it is orange juice. And the next question is why? Why when you squeeze an orange, as hard as you can squeeze it, does orange juice come out? And I asked that question up in Toronto one time. There's a little girl sitting right in the front row. She said, that's dumb. She said, that's what's inside. It has to come out. I said, well, that's the answer. You are really smart. And she smiled. She thought that was great. But that's the truth. The reason that orange juice comes out when you squeeze it is because that's what's inside. Now you extend the metaphor and someone squeezes you. That is, someone says something about you that you don't like. Someone behaves towards you in a way that you find offensive. Somebody does something or says something to you that you feel hurt by. And out of you comes anger, hatred, bitterness, tension, fear, anxiety, stress. And immediately you say, the reason that comes out of me is because of how he said it, or the way that she said that, or because they did that. But the truth is, the reality is, that what comes out is what's inside. And if you don't like what's inside, you can change it.
Did you know that 90% of all illnesses are caused by the mind? Let's think about this for a second. If the mind can cause an illness, don't you think it can heal those illnesses too? Well, it can.
Can the mind really heal the body? And if so, is there any scientific evidence to convince skeptical physicians like me? These are the questions that fueled the last few years of my research. And what I discovered is that the scientific community, the medical establishment, has been proving for over 50 years that the mind can heal the body. We call it the placebo effect. But I actually think this is really good news. The placebo effect is excellent news because it's concrete evidence that the body holds within it innate self-repair mechanisms that can make unthinkable things happen to the body. So if you find this surprising, if you have a hard time believing that the body can heal itself, you need look no further than the Spontaneous Remission Project, a database compiled by the Institute of Noetic Sciences of over 3,500 case studies in the medical literature of patients who have gotten better from seemingly incurable illnesses. You think there's such a thing as an incurable illness? I swear, if you go look at this database, it'll blow your mind. Everything's in there. Stage 4 cancers that disappeared without treatment. HIV-positive patients that became HIV negative. Heart disease, kidney failure, diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid disease, autoimmune diseases, gone.
Get ready, fast as you can go.